So today, for my car chat, I wanted to kind of discuss school because we'll be starting school again very shortly. If you know me, we do homeschool our children, and this year I will have a senior in high school and a sophomore in high school, so that would be 10th grade and 12th grade. And we're also going to kind of focus more on kindergarten stuff with my 5-year-old. In Ohio, you don't have to, I guess, register or paperwork the children until they're 6 years old. So it's not, I guess, totally official, but she's more than ready. I mean, I guess you could say that we've been doing preschool for a while now. But it's just, every kid is different. So we don't have to actually, do any paperwork on her until her first grade year. And so this year we'll be starting August 6th is my plan. And I've got most of my stuff kind of planned out and figured out. My my thoughts this morning are kind of like just asking you guys, how do you guys do your scheduling? And if you don't homeschool, then that's okay, because what I'm also going to ask you is kind of time management stuff. Like, how do you guys do your mornings? Like, how do you, I've talked in the past about planning ahead and, pulling out as much as you can the night before, getting as much ready the night before as possible. So, I'm not going to really get into that part of it, but when you're, I want to spin it around a little bit. When they come home from school, from public school, and this is where it was like quicksand to me. I felt like after they come home from school, you get that whiny kid, and they're tired. They're tired. They've been in school sitting at a desk for 6 to 8 hours, and they are then having to do homework. And I know for us, for one of my daughters, I remember one night it was like 3 hours of homework. And I don't know, schools are changing some homework rules and things like that now, but for us, for me, I should say, it was really, really frustrating, because I would get these cranky kids. I'd leave them, I would do everything I could in the mornings to try to make their day start really well and make it where they were pumped, to go to school, positive thinking. We'd pray before they left and things like that. And then I'd come home and I get these cranky kids that are overtired, and they're hungry. Of course, every kid is hungry when they come home from school, I think. I remember being hungry coming home from school. And so then I'd be making dinner, and I've got, other kids, and it's a lot in the evenings, and then they've got to get showered. And then I would always try to do everything that school would tell me to do. Make sure you're doing flashcards every night. Make sure you're doing sight words every night. Make sure you're doing, going through math facts every night. Like, all these different things. Then you have to bathe them or shower them, whatever, and then put them to bed. Make sure you do a story with them in the evenings. It was like so many things in this short amount of time with my cranky children. So that's another video about one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring my kids home so we could do homeschooling. But in the evenings now, I like it. And this is not like to bash public schools by any means. Everybody has what works for their family. For our family, I can't really imagine us going back to public school times, because it works well for us to be at home and do homeschool. Not school at home necessarily, because our school doesn't really look the same as what the public schools look like. So I wouldn't necessarily call it school at home. I would call it homeschooling, because homeschooling is different than school at home. And again, a homeschooling video coming up soon, but not today. So my evening, how do you kind of like, my suggestions for evenings to wind down and to relax a little bit would be, a lot of cuddle time. Reading is really good for, the younger ones that like for you to read to them. They'll read aloud kind of children. And then even after they learn how to read, those first few years of reading on their own, especially if they're in school, and reading, I think that it's giving their brain a break for a little bit. And even though they're still soaking it in if you're reading to them, it's very important for you to read to them. And I think that is really relaxing, and it kind of helps wind down the night. So after bath, I like to do some story time with my two littlest children, and kind of wind down a little bit after a long day of school or whatever. Again, our school days don't look the same as public school schedules would work. I'll have to make sure that I get to that video. But I want the time around the table for dinner is very important. Having that conversation, the discussion they don't have to be memorizing anything. They're just talking to you, and you're really just listening, because truly at that point, they haven't been able to speak a lot during the day. I mean, they might be able to raise their hand and ask a question, or even if you're homeschooling, a lot of it is, say this, what's 5 times 3, what's this, what's that, and so they're answering things, but just for them to just be able to breathe and just talk freely and you listen. That's my kind of suggestions, is to kind of have your dinners planned out, if you can. We like to do the menu planning, even if we don't stick by. I do a month at a time. And even if we don't stick to it exactly, if we swap a couple days, it just works better for us, because then we can have whatever we need to pull out to defrost, or if we need to put something in the crock pot that morning or that afternoon, whatever, depending on how many hours it needs. It just makes it easier, so that in the evenings, it's a little bit more calm. And that's really what your goal is before bedtime, is to make sure everything in your house has like that, aura, that feeling of just peace and calming. And speaking of peace and calming, a little oil blurb here is, there is a Young Living oil, essential oil, that is called Peace and Calming, and that one is unbelievable. I love it. And we actually use it a lot during our school days too. I'm pretty sure that my one daughter would, if she was still in public school, they would have probably asked me to get her, taken her to the doctor or something and had her checked for ADHD. I didn't do that, and even if she had it, even if she was diagnosed, I wouldn't have done the medication for her. I don't feel like she would need that at this time. And again, I'm not bashing anybody who's on medication for ADHD by any means. I'm just saying, for us, that's not the route that we would take at this point. But I have my diffuser set up. I think we have a diffuser in basically every room of our house. But we put Peace and Calming in the room that my daughter does her schoolwork in. And she's got a diffuser in her room too. So if she's sitting up there, because for our homeschooling, we don't always sit in the same place. I mean, especially my 2 high schoolers, they take their stuff, they go to their room, they sit on their bed. It's comfier. I mean, who doesn't want to sit there and read in their bed, rather than on a wooden chair in the kitchen, but so anyways, my point is, Sometimes these car chats get a little rabbit trailish, but my point is today is school's coming up. Start thinking about what you can do in the mornings and in the evenings to kind of be the peace of your kids, be the calming point that your kids have, because whether they're homeschooled or they're public school or they're Christian schooled or they're private school or whatever they are, during the day there's a lot going on in their little brains. So just you be the peace and calming of their life. And so you can pray before they leave for school. You can pray when they get home from school. You can just be grateful and thankful that they made it home from school. Or you can find a special place in the house where you do story time, cuddle time. My two little ones, we like to sit in my bed, but sometimes I have a rocking chair in my daughter's room, and sometimes I'll sit in there and read. And then my 1-year-old can nurse while we're reading our story too. So anyways, I hope that this gets your thoughts moving and maybe doesn't give you, exactly what your family needs, but it gets you thinking about it. It's because school's right around the corner, and that brings a lot of stress. So we want to try to keep our kids as stress-free as possible. I mean, they're kids, right? So let's just try to keep them calm and peaceful and joyful, and I want them to enjoy life. I want them to be, I don't want them to feel like an adult or they're dragging on to work and things like that. Yeah, school is part of life and you got to do what you got to do, but it doesn't always have to be horrible. So be blessed. Have a great day. I'm going to have a great day, and we will chat again soon. Thanks.